Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book The Mystery of Adam, where I will continue today on my section of marriage. Now, I've said that before, this is going to be a long section, and I will bring in a lot of things that are not in my book, and so this will be a little extra treat. Last time I talked about Genesis 2:24, and I believe that is the origin of marriage. Now, however, that origin, and I'm going to read the 24 again. It says, "For this cause a man shall leave father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." So that is the basis for marriage. Again, it says become. It's a fusion over time. The man and the woman become one more and more. So that is the origin. Now, here God created the man and the woman equal. After the fall in Genesis 3, that marriage relationship was destroyed. No longer can the man and the woman, or I shouldn't say they can't, it's extremely hard for them to become one. Of course, sexually it's pretty easy, right? And because it's easy, I guess the sexual one is the one that people think, oh, now it's it. They have sexual intercourse, and so therefore are one, and so therefore they're married before God. Well, I think it is not that easy. Okay, this one is not just the physical. It's the emotional. It's the spiritual. It's the whole human being that is joining. And this relationship cannot be built on inequality at all, because it's supposed to be a oneness where both um, people, both human beings, are equal. That's because God created them equal in the beginning. Therefore, He wants them again to join equally. So, again, I also said about the husband or the man is leaving father and mother. That's very important. So that the man, and this is the first time, or is it the second time? The second time where the word man was used, or ish. Okay, not Adam, ha-Adam, like in the beginning. But this is the second time in 23 man or uh, the male being or ish was mentioned for the first time. So now here again, the Bible says, "For this cause a man shall leave father and mother and cleave to his wife." So the man leaves father and mother. And I've said last time that that has been destroyed. No longer is the man leaving most of the time father and mother, but it's the other way around. Thousands of years, the woman left father and mother and did cleave to her husband. So that's why you can see that this original intent was destroyed. Of course, you also know the original intent of the two becoming one after the fall is impossible, because now the man in Genesis 3:6 will rule over the woman. So everything has been destroyed about marriage. But yet we want to act like we still have this marriage relationship like in paradise. And that's not the case. Of course, nowadays we've been so indoctrinated, for about 50 years. We've been actually indoctrinated to believe that. Media has been telling us, oh, yeah, you find Prince Charming and you live happily ever after. And we know that is not the truth. That is absolutely not the truth. So about 100 years ago, people knew that marriage wasn't a fairy tale. Marriage was real, and people had to live with the consequences of sin. And that's the same in our world. So today I want to look at Matthew. I said last time too that Jesus was actually the one that quoted Genesis. And in Matthew 19, Jesus is answering the Pharisees about divorce. So it says in 19:3, and some of the Pharisees came to him, testing him, saying, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any cause at all? Again, what are we saying? Is it lawful for a man? It's not saying, is it lawful for a man and a woman? No. We can tell right there that these people are acting under sin. Okay, under sin. They think that the woman belongs to the man. And that was very strongly the case during Jesus' time. Now, was that biblical? Of course not. Okay, we just saw that it was a partnership. They were both created equal. But right there, the Jews continued to be under sin. Now, Moses, in the law of Moses, he made it equal, and I wanted to talk a little more about this today, but I'm going to start with Jesus. Moses made it equal for the man and the woman under the law. And however, the Jews didn't care less. Now, during Jesus' time, there were two camps. One, and I don't remember exactly the names of the two court systems, let's say that way. There were two rabbis. One was Hillel, and the other was Shammai or something like that. But anyways, there were two court systems in place. In one of them, the man could divorce his wife for just any reason. And then the other one, the man had to have a reason to divorce his wife, just like Moses said. Moses said, you have to have a reason. Okay? So these people, they pushed it to the extreme and said, well, okay, any reason. So any reason. So here they wanted to argue with Jesus what he believed. Any reason or whatever. Now, Jesus is always a person that will go to extremes, okay, to make a point. And this is how he answered them. He said, and he answered and said, and that's in Matthew 19:4, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning, made them male and female? Okay, not just man, and then adding the female as a whatever helper. No, he made both male and female. So he said it again very strongly. Wait a minute, there is no man and his wife. There's two, male and female, he created and said, for this cause. Okay, now, if you're not getting it right now, I mean, he is saying, don't you know at the beginning he created the male and female? Male and female. And then he says, for this cause, and here he does quote Genesis 2:24. He says, for this cause a man shall leave father and mother and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Okay? Now, you just heard me read this, and you can look it up yourself. Jesus himself said, that he made them one in the beginning, male and female. And because he made them one, male and female, for that cause, okay, the man shall leave father and mother and cleave to his wife. And the two, okay, the two, it's, I mean, how many more proofs do you need to get? The two shall become one flesh. The two. It's not, oh, the man needs to be completed because his rib was taken out. It's not what he's saying here. He says the two shall become one flesh. Why? Because in the beginning they were male and female. Because that's how God created them. God created them male and female. Now, this is coming out of Jesus' mouth. Now, did they get this? I don't think so. I don't think so. And then he continues in 6. Consequently, they are no longer two, but one flesh. Okay? So now most people jump to the next part, which is what therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. And they build their little theology about not being able to separate or get a divorce on this teeny half verse. Okay, this is half of a verse, and I have read quite a lot right now. What, 1, 2, 3, 4 verses, 5 verses. Okay, but no, they disregard everything before that, and they just jump to the conclusion that Jesus said, nope, you cannot separate. That's not what he said. He said, therefore, what God has joined, let no man separate. That's what he says. Let no man separate. Okay? Now, that does not mean it's not going to happen. He's just saying right here, well, in the beginning, he created them that way, and so therefore, don't let them separate. Also, he's saying these people are not becoming one with their wives, anyways. I think that's another thing that he's saying. Because clearly he's saying they're supposed to be becoming one. Now, these Pharisees and these Jews, they didn't become one. If they believe they can just kick their wife away and without even giving them a divorce papers, just sending them away because they burned the food, do you think they're one with their wives? No, I don't think so. Again, they may be one like sexually, but these people didn't become one, and that's what Jesus is pointing out very clearly. Okay, they were one in the beginning, they're supposed to become one again, and on top of it, the man shall leave father and mother, not the woman, and cleave to his wife, not the other way around. The man does not need to have dominance over the woman. That's not what he's saying here. Okay, but that doesn't happen. This is what's supposed to be happening in a marriage, that the man shall leave father and mother and cleave to his wife. Well, if he cleaves to his wife, why is he dominating her? That doesn't happen. Okay? So, really, he's telling them right here that you guys don't have a marriage. What are you talking about? Why are you asking me, these stupid questions? And then he brings this real, well, consequently, they're no longer two, but one flesh. And then he says, well, therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. Okay? Well, God has joined, no man. Now, who joins the two people? God? I don't know. Or is it the two people are joining? I mean, here we are seeing that for this cause a man shall leave father and mother and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Okay, that's the true marriage. That is the true marriage what God wants. The two become one flesh, not what the Jews did. Okay, and so therefore it says, what God has joined, let no man take apart. Now, of course, the man and the woman are supposed to be doing their work as well. It doesn't just happen overnight. And it doesn't happen just because God says, now you guys are one. Because a lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe when they get married before God in the church, they feel like now God has joined them forever. Not according to the Bible, because they're supposed to be doing the work. They're supposed to be joining and becoming one. If they don't do it, well, what can God do? God can bless them, um, but if they're not doing it right, why would God bless anybody? So it's just very interesting how in our culture we have just absolutely twisted things around. We don't remember the true purpose of, of marriage. And even during Jesus' time, people didn't know the true meaning of marriage. It was long gone. Moses tried, and I will talk about that next time because I'm running out of time again, and I don't want to stay too long. But Moses tried to make it right or better um, under the law, but of course we know that the Jews very seldom stayed under the law. Very seldom did they follow God's commandments. I mean, it didn't take them very long, after they came back into the promised land to totally disobey God. And God had to, send them into captivity. So, and then by the time they came back from Babylon and Jesus was born, it wasn't any different. They lived their lives. They rather lived their lives after Talmud or some of the other rabbinical things than according to God. And so when these Pharisees came, well, guess what? Jesus knew exactly what they were doing. They were um, messing up the law of Moses. Why? Because they wanted to have their own way. Yeah, they want to justify that they can't just send their wives away for no reason whatsoever. Well, it's because they never became one with her in the first place. Because all they did is they treated women the same way as the culture around them. So I know I brought that in today because I wanted to actually talk about, continue about the historical development. But you can see that during Jesus' time, um, this has already happened, that marriage was destroyed. Marriage was destroyed from the beginning. So next time I just go kind of a little bit back because we do have to talk about the historical development between Moses, Abraham, and Moses. Now, did they ever live according to God's will? Did they ever have marriages according to God's will? You could see that even during Abraham's time they didn't. Neither did his children. Abraham didn't, and neither did his children. And how do you think that continued when they went into Egypt? Well, it didn't change anything. Matter of fact, they were so affected by the Egyptian culture that they didn't go by God's law or anything. I mean, we don't hear of any prophet during the time in Egypt. Matter of fact, we don't know very much. Okay, we only know that they eventually got into slavery. That's all we know. We don't know anything else. We don't know what they did, and but you know what? If God allowed them to go into slavery, it was most likely because they didn't live according to God's commandments. They didn't seek God, because usually that's what happens. God kind of gives them over to bondage, to slavery, to captivity, because they're straying from Him. And that's probably what happened. And we kind of can assume that because when God finally reached Moses, that's where they were. They were not really following God. I mean, even after Moses brought them through um, the Red Sea and to Mount Sinai, they still didn't follow God. They made themselves a calf while Moses was up there receiving the Ten Commandments. So you know that's what their tendency is. Okay, if they have done it, then they didn't follow God very well. And so God kind of rescued them from Egypt because they had to get them out of Egypt. Um, and again, Egypt is symbolic for sin. They were living in sin. So, anyways, I want to finish up today. So I did talk a little bit about historical things, but maybe next time I will talk more. So we can see some pretty interesting things, and I hope you have done some research about marriage um, and how marriage developed historically. And it's not God's will what we have done in the past 6,000 years. I mean, even after we became Christians, we didn't even start correcting things about marriage. So, anyways, I will get into that as well. But keep reading Genesis 2:24 and especially Matthew 19, starting with verse 4. Okay, that is so important. And don't try to not be stuck in the traditional interpretation, and don't try to be stuck in half of um, 6, verse 6. Okay, don't get stuck in it, and don't seek your own interpretation, but really think, what did Jesus try to tell these Pharisees? And again, go back to what is the original intent of marriage. All right, I'm finishing up today, and I will see you next time.